Okay, Mr. President, thanks a lot, sir, for giving us some time this afternoon. I know you met moments ago with a major investor, and that is something you've been talking about, new investment for Guyana. Even in these COVID times, you're still talking with investors. Bring us up to date on today's meeting and what we can look forward to.
Well, Gordon, as you know, our country would go through a period of tremendous transformation, infrastructure transformation, technological transformation, and also transformation of our human resources. Very important to this is ensuring that our local population enjoys the benefit of this transformation through job creation and through the opportunities that will be created. And as I said before, our commitment to the manifesto is unshakable. And what part of that commitment, as you know, is the achievement of 50,000 house lots. And we want to have at least 25,000 homes built over the next 5 years. So, and now we went out for a public expression of interest for housing, for hotel development, and we recently went out for another expression of interest for private sector partnership in the sugar industry. And then also we are talking about the development of a Wales Development Authority. So all of this is stimulating a lot of regional and international interests. So as you said today, yes, I met with a major regional investor who has keen interests in all these areas of development. We also went out with an expression of interest for the Demerara River Bridge. Um, we have conversation going on the Quarantine River Bridge. We have a very high level visit will take place sometime next month from Brazil. And in that visit, uppermost on the agenda will be the Deepwater Harbor and the road connection to Brazil. So these are all major transformational infrastructure and investment that are already on the card. So we have been meeting with a lot of investors regionally, internationally, and even locally. One of the things that we are hoping to achieve in the Wales Development Authority is to create a major manufacturing, agro-processing, employment generation hub through business development initiatives, business incubators, that would not only take up the unemployment that took place after the closure of the estate, but would create new opportunities. So the meeting today, part of the meeting today, was to examine the interests of one such developer, and we are hoping that in sometime within 6 weeks, you will see the results of all these engagements. We're hoping that the expression of interest will be completed by then, and we will have these investors in place so that we can move our country forward.
Sir, let's turn to the issue of healthcare and our nurses. I know that there's a team negotiating to address some of the concerns with nurses. Can you bring us up to date with that? And is the government looking at more than the money allocated in the budget just recently?
Well, Gordon, listen, when you look at the nurses, we have to look at it in a holistic manner in relation to what is taking place in our economy. And we have the right way to do things and we have the wrong way to do things. Now, there are clearly established criteria, protocols, and guidelines as to how the nurses could have approached whatever issues they had. None of those protocols or guidelines or the law was broken. So that's the first thing we have to understand. Secondly, when you look at the stream of benefits from the 2020 budget, it is not only the $150 million there for frontline health workers that we're talking about. It is also the 25,000 cash grant for every family. It is a 10,000 cash grant for children, school children. It is a 4,000 uniform cash grant allowance. It's a removal of VAT on electricity and water. It is a combination of all these factors that ultimately benefit every single citizen. including the nurses. So the $150 million not only as it relates to nurses. Now there is some specific manifesto commitment as it relates to nurses and healthcare workers, among all other categories of work in our country. And I want to assure the nurses that within our 5-year term, they will see not only they will see a monumental improvement, not only in their salaries and their benefits, but in their overall livelihood, in their overall quality of life. So we are here just about 60 plus days, right? And we have a 5-year agenda. And whilst I understand greatly the role nurses, teachers, public servants, sugar workers play in our country and our economy, we have brought in the 2020 budget a menu of measures in an emergency manner. It was an emergency budget that is affordable to the economy. Whilst we are doing this, we are also planning the 2021 budget. And a number of the more macro issues, including those of wages and salaries, right, is looked at in the planning of the 2021 budget. Also, one has to take into consideration, for example, the Georgetown Hospital. I saw the CEO issuing a letter on the benefits that would have already been earmarked for the nurses. They're already receiving some of those benefits. Whilst we know that they're operating in a COVID environment, just like every frontline workers, and there is greater risk, we appreciate that. We have to work within the confines of affordability and the economy. And I want to assure the nurses that this government is committed to ensuring our promises and our commitment to them over the 5-year period is realized. And I can assure them, Gordon, that their lives and their families' life is going to improve tremendously. Tremendously.
I know you're looking at a 5-year plan. They're looking at the now. And so the union has said they're open to negotiations. They're going to give the government 2 weeks. You have Dr. Jennifer Westford already meeting on the government's behalf.
Well, the minister is looking at this issue. You can't negotiate in bad faith too. There's laws, and you have to follow the laws. You have to follow the laws, and you have to follow the guidelines. Let me be very frank with you. You said that nurses have to look at their immediate needs. As a government, we have to look at the immediate needs of all of Guyana. We have to look at the medium-term needs and the long-term needs. And then we have to plan and forecast based on affordability, based on immediate revenue stream, medium-term revenue stream, and long-term revenue stream. And that is the difference between running a government and you have to understand the complexity of the issue. You have to understand that it is not a singular issue that that a singular variable you have to look at when you're in government. There's a multifaceted number of variables that you have to look at in addressing a single issue. So what I'm saying to you is that you have to appreciate also what we took over. We took over an economy in a country where we lost thousands of jobs, tens of thousands of jobs, where we had taxes impeding development and growth, where we had our major sectors, mining, the natural resources sector, forestry, agriculture, all declining rapidly. We had to arrest that. We had to get back the economy working. We had to put back people to work. We had to create the incentives that will create new opportunities, expand opportunities in the economy. So you have to understand the total context that we came into government and what we reached. And that is why I'm saying to you that we are not shifting from our medium and long-term plans for the nurses and for the workers of this country. We are totally committed to that. But the workers themselves also have to understand the context in which the government is operating. And to be fair also, we, we are not denying the fact that these workers, the nurses, they do a tremendous job. But look around. Look around the countries around us. Globally, what we are seeing is the cutting of employment. We are seeing essential workers giving up allowances. We are seeing essential workers going beyond the call of duty. And the question we have to ask, Gordon, that you should ask also, is how do you deal with essential workers like the nurses breaching the law, operating outside of the law? Then what is the purpose of laws if we are not going to adhere to the laws and guidelines? These laws and guidelines are there not for fashion, because they recognize that certain services are essential to the public good. Certain services are essential in maintaining life. And that is why it came under those laws.
But we're in the middle of a pandemic. And do you think the right thing for your Attorney General to do is to be reminding them of those laws and to be issuing those threats?
The Attorney General did not issue a threat. I read carefully what he said. In that letter, the Attorney General pointed out to the fact that the nurses are providing a great service to our country. He thanked them for the service. But he used the opportunity to remind the nurses and the stakeholders of the law, because they were in breach of the law. And we were reminding them that they were in breach of the law, and they continue to be in breach of the law. So the Attorney General had a legal responsibility. The minister has a responsibility to remind them of what the laws say. And you may turn the question around. Is it the right time for our frontline workers to breach the law and to come out and protest at the middle of a pandemic, when they know that their services are not only essential but vital to the existence of people in supporting a healthcare infrastructure in the middle of a pandemic? So the question can be reversed.
And sir, since we were in the pandemic, as we are meeting here today, the Ministry of Health is reporting 3 new deaths in the past 24 hours. The 24 hours before that, 3 other deaths. We're now at this moment at 98 deaths and over 3,000 cases. How is the government readjusting some of the things it had planned, some of the things it wants to do to really deal with what is not only again a problem, but it is creeping up on us now?
It's a very important question, Gordon. First of all, I continue to say that our prayers, our thoughts, and our sympathies are with all those families who lost their loved ones in this pandemic. But we have to understand that we have moved from a situation when we were doing 40 to 60 tests per day to a situation at some days we were doing 500 tests per day. So we are now seeing the true magnitude of the issue in terms of persons being positive. The transition ratio from positive to death is still below the world average. That is not to say that it's not a problem. It's a major problem for us. We have seen what is taking place in Jamaica, that was doing well at one point, and then suddenly you had this great outbreak. Trinidad and the rest of the world. Some countries that are now back in a third stream of the pandemic. No doubt the vaccine is a very important part of the solution. But in addition to that, as you rightfully pointed out, this has caused countries to realign their policies and programs and expenditure profile. For us here in Guyana, for example, we have a $60 million program that we now have to completely realign to deal with the pandemic. We just negotiated with the World Bank, their resources, the IDB, their resources, $20+ million, being converted to policies and programs to deal with the pandemic. So, as I said to the United Nations, that the pandemic has a wider effect on countries. It is beyond the health effect, because many countries will now have to readjust the achievement of their the development goals, the SDGs. They have to realign now their time frame in achieving those SDGs. You have to realign your time frame in achieving your development objectives and what you want to achieve for the people of your country. The resources had to be reprioritized, and we were not spared from that. That is one of the first things that we had to do when we came into office, was to reprioritize all of these international financing to focus on COVID and COVID-related issues. But it also points to a bigger problem that we will have to address at the end of the pandemic. I've spoken to the medical team, the experts, and they said to me that many of the persons who would have died had severe underlying issues. One young man, I think, went in with diabetic coma. But they said what is alarming to them, now that we have the pandemic and more people have to check in because they have the symptoms, there's a large population in our country among young people who are diabetic. So at the end of this pandemic, I would definitely be going out on an all-out attack on dealing with issues of primary health care. We have to do a thorough national census, if you want to put it that way, or a national study on diabetes, and to see what level of intervention is needed. This has to be done at the community level, because what has been reported to me is frightening in relation to our population and the ratio of our population that has diabetes. And that's one of the important underlying factors in these COVID cases.
What is the plan now? Because you have your health minister being assisted by two former health ministers and a team of professionals there. What is the short-term plan to really clip? You know, we've been hearing about enforcement, but you take a drive around. I'm quite sure when you're driving to Lenora, you see shops open, you see people walking by.
Well, Gordon, you can have the best plan, but if people themselves don't understand the impact, if people themselves don't understand that this thing kills you, that COVID is not a joke, COVID is not to be taken lightly, if you don't have not only the understanding but the value for your own life and others, your family, then as you would want to put it, it's a shift in mindset and thinking that has to take place. That is why we have asked the army, the police force, and civil society and the private sector to go on a national campaign. We have more than 1,000 persons going around the country, educating people, sharing out masks, bus parks, and it is going to be a continuous effort for the next 6 weeks. It is going to be a continuous effort for the next 6 weeks. I've also reached out to countries that are advanced in the vaccine, and I've asked them, I've written, to put Guyana as a priority on the agenda. Because I believe too that although the vaccines are in a testing phase, that the population, if they have the chance of having access to these vaccines, must be given the opportunity to have access. And then they decide whether they want to take it or not. In this phase, and all of these measures I'm trying, I've spoken to the president of Argentina, the president of Brazil, I've spoken to the Chinese ambassador, I've spoken to the Indian High Commissioner, I've spoken at the CARICOM Heads of Government meeting, I've spoken at the United Nations on the issue of the vaccination, to ensure that Guyana and all the small developing states, that they are not left behind in terms of the vaccination. But in addition to the enforcement that you're talking about, we also had to build capacity. We reached a situation where you had only about 2 of the qualified persons in the lab who can actually do the lab analysis. We had a situation where the, the Ocean View facility was not ready. We are now in the process of putting in oxygen lines to create space for 20 new ICU units. We didn't have ventilators. We brought in more than 20 plus ventilators. More than 20 plus ventilators. The same thing with masks, PPEs. So these are all things that have been ongoing. From the medical perspective, we are not sparing any resources. We are trying to reach all the requirements that from a medical perspective, but also you have the social and economic side of COVID. And the worst thing is that you come out of COVID into an economic depression. Many small businesses have been affected. Many people's lives have been affected. So we are also working now with the private sector on not only completing that assessment, but coming up with a model through which we can assist those small businesses. Because that's another major issue or a fallout of the pandemic that we will have to deal with.
How do you deal with that though? Because I know the airports are going to be opened up in a few days. Businesses are opening up, and they've been opening up more over the past weeks. But how do you balance the two, safety and health, versus the need to balance the economy?
You have to balance the two through proper guidelines and protocols. That is the only thing. We have to get, and we're developing some very strong guidelines and protocols for the airport. So balancing this requires strong guidelines and protocols. And that is what you'll see us doing. Putting up strong guidelines and protocols. And importantly, as you said, is enforcing those guidelines and protocols. So there'll be a rigid enforcement at the airport, for example. The opening up, we have also sent out a special team to ensure businesses stay within the curfew. But even without the curfew, Gordon, the curfew at 6, when you drive past the seawall, it was like nothing. Like there was no curfew. What has happened also that we have to take into consideration is that we have moved now to basically community spread. And that is what we have to tackle. It's a massive, massive issue that requires a comprehensive set of decisions and a comprehensive set of action. And that is what we're developing.
Thanks a lot, sir. As we get ready to wrap up, just want to touch on about two other issues. 2 nights ago, the Prime Minister announced the liberalization of the telecom sector. We've seen the major companies welcoming this initiative, and the Prime Minister also indicating that, he's open to investors. The government is open to investors. But with more investment will come more regulations, because, they're going to be in a battle now, survival of the fittest, sort of. So are you going to look at additional regulations under the PUC or under some other act to really keep an eye on these companies now?
So remember, this is just one aspect of the work. You have the license and you have the requirements of the license. And then you have the regulations in dealing with fees, fee structure, and all of these things. So I think that the regulations themselves would make that adjustment. It is not necessarily the survival of the fittest. It is a level playing field that is based on size, gross income, and so on. But the ultimate objective is for the Guyanese people, for them to have faster internet, more efficient, less costly, better bandwidth, and all of this most definitely would lead to more employment creation. We moved from a position a year ago where you were hearing from one of the major providers, not hearing, that they were cutting staff. The position today in the newspaper where there's advertisement for staff. And they've all said one thing, that the Guyanese people can expect a better service, a more reliable service, a cheaper service. They've all said that. And importantly, employment generation. And the ICT platform is a very important platform for future development. As you're aware, Gordon, the call centers can add important additional income to the pockets of people. If you put a call center, for example, in Tushan, that's a new housing scheme, and you train housewives who are otherwise at home to work in that call center, and they earn even $70,000 a month. That is $70,000 additional income to that family. And the only reason we were not so competitive when it came to the call centers was because of the cost of bandwidth. We were the most competitive in terms of language because our accent is considered neutral. We had a good investment regime, but the cost of bandwidth was too much. That is resolved, and as the major, not only the major, but as all the providers said, Guyana can expect great things. And I have no doubt that this would bring great things for us.
The University of Guyana reported this week, sir, 7,000 applications. Many of those university students might be thinking about that free education promise that they heard so much from almost all the parties during the campaign season. How soon could that be a reality? Is it going to be a reality?
Well, first of all, let me say, Gordon, it will be a reality. Within the 5 years, you will see free university education, firstly. Secondly, very shortly, we will launch our 20,000 scholarship program. These are things that people doubted us. People doubted that we'll achieve the 50,000 house lots. They doubted we'll achieve the 20,000 scholarships. They doubted the free education. They doubted the liberalization of telecommunication. I can look you in the face and look Guyana in the face and to say to Guyana, we will achieve all the commitment in the manifesto. Do not be dissuaded. Do not let anyone mislead you. As president of all of Guyana, as your president, I am telling you, I am saying to you, my Guyanese brothers and sisters, that all the promises in the PPP Civic Manifesto will be realized. You will see 50,000 new jobs. You will see 50,000 house lots. You will see free university education. You will see the 20,000 scholarships. You will see a better life for you and your family. And I'm saying this to all Guyanese and you too, Gordon.
How soon though?
Within the 5 years. We are elected. I'm sure you never expected the liberalization as fast as you got it, if you want to be honest.
But there were moves in that direction.
No. I'm saying to you, Gordon, I am sure you did not expect this as fast as you promised. I'm sure you did not expect the reversal of all those VAT charges as fast as you saw it. As I said to you, we are working in relation to the revenue stream. And you will be shocked to see how fast some of these will come.
But free education, 2 years?
I would not sit here and allow you to push me into giving a time. What I will say to you, I will allow you to do, is to join me in saying to the rest of Guyana that you will get it within the 5 years. You will.
I know you mentioned the 50,000 house lots, and that is something you've been putting out a lot. Last Friday, right out here on Main Street, a group of squatters who've been in the news a lot from the East Coast came. They didn't get to meet with you, but they still have concerns. How is the government moving in that direction? Yeah, how is the government?
They met with the Minister of Housing. They met with the Minister of Housing. They met with a team from the Ministry of Housing. Let me say to you, Gordon, that we are committed to delivering the 50,000 house lot. We have to do things the right way. Gaisuku lost millions upon millions of dollars with what took place there. The seedling canes, new variety experiment. All those persons, as we said to them, We asked them to get registered. Who did not apply, we asked them to apply. And all of them will be facilitated in the government housing program. They will all be facilitated in the government housing program. But we have to get accustomed to doing things the right way too. You have a government, Gordon, and a president who is willing to listen to you. A president who is willing to work, and a government the government is willing to work with every Guyanese in realizing a better life for all Guyanese, in realizing all the promises we made in the manifesto. I am calling on Guyanese. I am calling on Guyanese of all walks of life to embrace the future with confidence that this government will deliver to you. And Mr. Moseley just asked me a question about the time I ran housing. I ran housing, we delivered 30,000 house lots. We could not have reached everyone. Why? When the PPP came to office, there was no housing program. There was no housing ministry. There was no housing budget. There were over 500 squatter settlements across Guyana. When I left, we brought it down to less than 70 squatter settlements. We started a hinterland housing development program. We started a young professional housing program. We started a low-income, low-cost housing program. So when Mr. Moseley asks that question, in the humblest of way, I say, my brother Gordon, take your vehicle, take a beautiful drive from Eccles all the way to Diamond. Come out of the air-conditioned comfort of your vehicle and feast your eyes upon what the PPP civic government delivered to the people in relation to housing. And then you will see that that question really should be what took place in the last 5 years. What took place in the last 5 years? Gordon?
The question quickly, sir. As the president now and the former housing minister, you would have gained a lot of experience in housing. So I was trying to get from you, what are you sharing with these two new ministers in terms of what they should be doing, what they should be looking at? That's what I want to come to.
So this is one government. And we have been sharing ideas at the level of cabinet. I had a lot of interaction. Only today, just before our interview, and let me publicly apologize to you for being late because of the meeting that went on. So you can't say publicly that I had you waiting. So I'm doing that publicly. Not that you would do that. So let me say though, that we have been sharing ideas, and you will see the result of this very shortly. You will see the result. It's not only, you see, housing is a dynamic sector. And what you will see is us moving. I don't want people to tell me that we can do prefab homes from any country and ship the prefab home here. I want the infrastructure to be set up here that we can manufacture our concrete prefab homes right here, creating a new level of skill set, new level of job. Will we accomplish this? I assure you we will. Thank you very much, Gordon.